Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rates and Lanes weekly podcast, long running podcast, I may add. I am your host, Chuck Snow, tonight, and I guess our guest is going to be my co host because Rico's in a meeting of some sort and can't get free. So I think it's my good friend Darryl Rutherford reporting from the front lines. And those of you that haven't had the pleasure of meeting Darryl, Darryl runs a company in Barrie, Ontario, Canada called Durango Specialized, and they are a partial load, not a traditional LTL, but they're a partial load carrier. They handle, well, Darryl will tell us, but they handle partial loads to and from between Canada and parts of the U.S. So, with no further ado, welcome to the Rates and Lanes podcast, Darryl. Great to have you on again. I always enjoy having you.
Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate it. Glad to be back. Gonna miss talking to Rico, but we'll catch up another day.
Well, maybe his meeting will be over a little earlier, and then we can catch up with him. So I don't see any battle scars here, and I don't see any bandages. How you doing, man?
I got long sleeve shirts on for all the 3 months.
And a bulletproof vest, of course.
we need it. We need it. It's tough right now. I was happy to see that the G7 meeting, they said they were probably going to have a trade deal in 30 days. What that trade deal looks like, I don't know. I'm hoping it's good for everybody.
Yeah. I totally agree. And, I've been talking to a lot of Americans, and they're suffering too. I don't think they're suffering anywhere nearly as bad as Canadians are, but they're still suffering. The market, especially where we reside in Southern Ontario, it's inundated with trucks and truckers and brokers and not a lot of shippers.
No, we got a fair bit of shippers, but they're resellers and stuff like that, so they're not manufacturing. Yeah. We definitely need more manufacturing. One thing I have learned, and I haven't had the time, but I'm going to, hopefully that gets a little bit calmer. I'm going to do a course on tariffs. I really need to understand tariffs so I can instruct people, because I've heard some rumblings that there's a lot of things that aren't tariffed right now.
No, that is true. But, it's an ever-ending, like even the custom brokers, they used to look at these great big books back in the day, if you remember, when I was young, which is more than a few years ago. And now, of course, they check online to see what is, what class comes under clear tariff classifications. And some tariffs have never been removed, even with free trade.
Correct. And now we have the new CARM in Canada, and that's causing a lot of problems. I don't understand it. I guess Canada Customs got tired of people not paying their bill, and now it's affecting it. I'm ending up having to put a lot more stuff in bond, and it's costing the customers a lot.
That's costing you a lot, because now, are you an open bond carrier or are you sealed?
I'm open bond.
Okay. So to our American listeners, I just want to explain how this works. Canada has a system called a bonded carrier, and it's readily available, not as readily as it used to be back in the day, but there were what we called sufferance warehouses, and they were inland ports. So if you couldn't clear something at the border, let's say you're coming through on a Saturday night and the paperwork was wrong, custom broker had gone home, and back in the old days, they worked banker's hours. You could take a shipment, put a yellow ball seal on it, and you would take it inland to a sufferance terminal anywhere in Canada. You would bond it to that terminal, and there'd be a custom broker would come in with a customs agent and clear the shipment there as if you were at the border. That's how that worked. Now, when Canada Customs developed the PAR system, the pre-arrival release system, then most of those sufferance terminals within small towns disappeared, and it's the major cities that have them now. And it used to be a pain in the neck. You would have some customer that would want to save $35 on a shipment, and want it brought in bond. And I'll never forget going to see this older lady. She was well into her 80s, and her job, she was a custom broker for a company, and she looked after transportation. And she said, everything with us has to be brought in bond. I said, why is that? She said, well, I clear them. And you could see she was posturing for a job. And I said, you know what? For LTL, we can't bring it in bond. So we never did any work for them. But, that was the problem. And the US, you can bring things in bond, but it's painful. I've done it.
It is painful. You can do it. And yet, thankfully, I'm a US and Canada customs bonded carrier.
Yes.
There's less bond sheds I find in the US than up
You have to go to an airport.
Or Seattle has one downtown.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they do. Right across from Fan's Bakery. Done a lot of loads in and out of there. But the biggest thing is it's $210 now to go on bond.
You know what? I love it because that's a deterrent from having these people try to do it themselves, because it used to be very economical. So they would at the demise of the trucker.
Right.
Now, getting down to things, because I really want to pick your brain tonight. Having talked to Americans for the last 2 weekends, but a lot of my Canadian friends that I talk to are having a tough time as well, and people are scrounging. The carriers, the ones with 5 to let's say 40 trucks in the U.S. and in Canada, everybody's hurting, and so are the independent guys that have run on their own authority and insurance. That live off the load boards. They're really hurting as well. What are you doing to address the pain that we're all going through?
I'm just trying to be innovative and try things constantly and be willing to be nimble. Like I said, last time we talked, I've picked up some freight to Thunder Bay. It's being promising. So we go Thunder Bay down in Minneapolis.
Right.
It seems to be a decent lane, and we'll go Thunder Bay, Minneapolis, North Dakota. Looking at maybe going to Nebraska, Omaha, maybe Missouri. The problem is it's not every week is strong.
Yeah.
The thing with the Thunder Bay is I've actually started taking Manitoba freight. I used to start Regina West. A lot of delivery in Regina or Saskatoon on a Monday, on Fridays. So with trying to take a little bit of Canadian freight, if the Thunder Bay Minneapolis truck isn't doing good, I throw the Thunder Bay on the Canadian truck, and then I do a switch to the west. So the drivers don't like to switch as much because they end up on the road 3 weeks. But I'd have to say my guys, the group of guys I got now, we've let 5 people go. We've dropped 5 trucks.
So that's one of your strategies, and that's a brilliant one, cutting back. Now, were you able to, I know a lot of people that I spoke to, there was no option of cutting back and scaling back their fleet because they had bought newer equipment, and there's no way they could get out of those contracts.
There's always a way if you want a way. Might cost you a little bit of money, but you got to look at it. I can either keep paying $4,500 a month, or we can make a deal, sell the truck and find out and pay over time and cut my costs. So a couple, like my trailer deal is costing me, but it's better to cost in the future than to keep trying to pay $8,500 a month right now for trailers. That I really don't.
What did you do with trailers? Did you sell a bunch or what?
I just called them and said, look, we're struggling. We got an option. We can miss some payments and add them onto the back. I can bring them back. We can stop the payments. You can hold on to them. And when things come back up, we'll take them back and use them. Or you can sell them. And whatever the difference is, we'll sit down and talk. I want everyone to get their money. But at the same time, I can't keep doling out, like I said, $8,500 a month when all 11 trailers are sitting.
Oh, no, I agree.
Yeah. It was so. My dilemma was I actually got to where I wanted to. I got all the new equipment. I got the new trucks. We had some Like I had some bad luck with the new trucks. I love the new trucks I have. The fuel mileage is amazing.
And tell our audience what you're running for new trucks, because people are all ears. Ladies and gentlemen, you can send us questions tonight, and we're glad to answer them. Also, we'd really appreciate any likes you can give us to help get our algorithms up. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So
I'm doing ProStar Internationals with the Scania 13 motor.
right, that's the SB or SC13.
S13.
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 And we've talked about those engines before and those trucks. How are you finding them? What good things? What bad things?
My drivers think they're a little underpowered, and I think it's a programming issue at the moment. Scania and International are working on it. We have a lot of check engine lights coming on, but they have over-the-air programming, so they go in and say it's nothing important. Don't worry, we'll find a fix for it.
Right.
So I don't think we're getting the performance that we should be getting out of the truck because there's something in the altitude or something in the emissions over here that's not letting it perform properly. And they have a fix. They know they need to fix it. But trucks aren't breaking down. Like it's not stranding me anywhere. They're not regenning. Like it's just simple a check engine light, so the truck's not performing the best ability. But our average is 9.2.
Whoa!
So it was well
That's
worth
a truck payment, man. Between that and running old iron, that you get 5.5. Those 4 miles a gallon. That's a truck payment.
So I'm back to doing a round trip to Seattle and back for $2,300 on fuel.
Whoa!
So now all the trucks have the APU, the International Factory APU, that's battery, heat, the air conditioning, start and stop. And some of my guys are upset because the truck will literally shut off in 2 minutes if you don't do the start and stop. If you try to idle it up, 2 minutes, it shuts down. They go through the warming up. Basically, it's a motor. It's not a body. Once you got oil pressure, roll. It forces them to use a start and stop so they can keep themselves in their comfort, right? But I don't want the truck sitting idling at a dock for 15 minutes.
Right, I don't blame you. I've got to just share something. I'll never forget. We were giving this one carrier many years ago a ton of business, and everybody's talking about him. He was doing all of our, or a lot of our California. And the guy's name was Dan. And everybody's always talking about Dan, and I never met him. And I drive up to our old yard, and I see this big, beautiful black Freightliner. And it was a scorcher of a day. It must have been close to 100 degrees. And it's running. And I thought, he must be sleeping. The driver must be sleeping, waiting for something. And I go in the office and I meet the owner, Dan. It was his truck. This is the owner of the company. And his truck was idling. And I thought, now that's not good ownership. And I said, is there somebody in your truck? Because we're giving this guy a lot of business. I'm trying to figure out, is he a good operator or not? Are we getting too comfortable? And he said, no, I just like to keep it cool. And, an alarm went off, and I thought, no, there's no business owner I know that would let their truck idle to keep it cool on a hot day while they're in here. There's something wrong. And I said to our operations manager and our general manager at the time, find alternatives, because there's going to be an issue with this guy. And they go, why? His service is phenomenal. I said, you need to trust me. And sure enough, I was right. He went broke shortly after.
It's not the running that kills the truck, it's the idling.
Yes.
You think about our bodies. What does the doctor say about sitting at a desk constantly and not going out and exercising? Sitting at the desk is what kills you because you're not getting the circulation. You get up, go to the gym, do a walk, try to get up and walk around a lot. You at least keep the body moving. When you're sitting idle, you kill yourself. The same with
the death of Darryl. It's the death of truck drivers.
Yep, 100%. So I'm liking them. A couple of my drivers come in and they've complained, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry, that's the deal I made, and I don't go back on my word. I have 2 older Freightliners left. We've held off getting another new truck right at the moment because the Freightliners are at the point where I can park them if I have to. So I don't want to replace them this moment, but the trucks are there ready for me.
Yes.
I'm staying with international, and I'm looking back at companies, and I probably should have stayed with international and went with international a while. Kriska, Herb's one still to this day. They have a few Freightliners. They're pretty much an international fleet. They've got great service network. The dealerships are done differently. I don't know what international has in their dealer network, but I get treated differently by the service department, the parts department, and the people at the dealership.
You know what I heard? This is just what I heard from somebody recently. International does not have the arrogance.
Correct. Yeah, they want me there. They need me there. I kind of screwed up. Forgot a truck was coming in, so I got a piece of hair in my. I had a truck coming in. I got kind of busy. I forgot to call them Friday to book it in. The driver got to the yard today, and I'm like, oh crap, this guy's got 6 codes coming up. One of the issues that they got to work on, it's not affecting the truck, but I don't want to get the guys in a habit of driving down the road with codes on.
Right.
I called Kim up, and I'm like, hey, Kim, sorry to do this last minute. Can I drop it off today? I only need it back Friday. She's like, yeah, sure, man. Bring it up. We'll get it done by Friday. Don't worry about it.
Wow.
We're Freightliner, Volvo. I am a diehard Kenworth guy, but I don't like calling Kenworth. Yeah, we're 2 weeks out. Can't touch it. Can't even read it. No, I can't read it. I can call up the international dealership when the codes pop up, and the foreman will jump on his computer and read the truck and tell me, is it serious enough to get to the dealership, or don't worry about it, bring it in. And they actually will maintain looking at the truck for the next 2 weeks because they know my schedule. And about every 3 days, Justin sends me an email. Hey, Darryl, checked on that truck. It's still okay, man. Bring it in when you get back.
Wow, that's customer service. I have to say, in all fairness, we ran Kenworths. I bought them from Kenworth on Dixie Road, and I never had any issue. I found them to be a extraordinary supplier, and some of the Kenworth dealers on the road, we found them pretty good.
Most part dealerships are good. There's an arrogance about Kenworth and Peterbilt. They don't really try to make room for you right now. They're all overworked with all the emissions.
I guess you know what. Remember, I haven't taken a truck to Kenworth in over 3 years, so I haven't been there, and a lot has happened in 3 years.
A lot of the Kenworth dealerships are owned by one person too now. They're starting to get groups, and that's kind of scaring me. Because like Curry's owns the 3 Freightliner dealerships around me. Volvo owns pretty much, Sheehan's is their own, Vision's their own, but the Barrie Volvo, Mid-Ontario owns Ajax, Brock, Vaughan, Barrie, North Bracebridge or North Bay. Like, you really can't get a truck from Toronto to Sault Ste. Marie fixed with dealing with Curry. Or Mid-Ontario, you get yourself in a situation where someone decides there's a new policy and they have enough clout that you just sit and wait, Well,
you know what? They're a lot bigger than you are. That's the problem.
Yeah. But yeah, for strategies, I'm just looking at cutting costs, being very careful, making my dispatchers run the truck router. So when you plan something, you're looking at something, run the router, whatever. I have my numbers. If you can't equal that number, don't take it. And if you take it, you better be prepared to be on the unemployment line because we can't afford to do favors.
No, not in this market.
No. Well, and at any market, we shouldn't be doing a favor. If it's out of route and it's going to cost us, the customer should pay the cost. Like we have a lot of customers that we go to Eugene for.
Right.
And they seem to think Eugene, Oregon is the same as Portland. It's not.
No.
That's a huge state. Can't get there. It's 2.5 hours down. It's a 2.5 hours back up. I have to charge for it. And no one says no when you explain it. But when you just put a charge on and you don't explain it, it's a little different. So yeah, we've scaled back. Looking at different alternatives for loading my trucks on warehousing and stuff. I'm cutting every cost I can that doesn't hurt my employees or my drivers. If I've got to go to a less fancy warehouse, if I've got to only have one forklift because I can get some money from my forklift, I'm loading trucks myself again.
Nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, I bet you're making more money because you're going to get that extra quarter load on one spot because you know how to do it and you care.
I've actually doubled the one truck. The one truck, even my son, because my son's one of my dispatchers, I call him up and I'm like, yeah, put this on the load. Yeah, put this on the load. Put this on. He's like, Dad, stop. He's got 26 deliveries. I don't care. Put it on the load. It fits. It goes. And we $28,000 one trailer to the coast.
Wow. See, that's what you need, but you need to do a lot of those because there's a lot where you're losing. So you have to watch every penny right now. And we've said that, we have an economist that comes on regularly, and he said to people when we could see the bad winds coming, even before, but we could see them coming. And I remember Mike was saying to people, whatever you do, avoid debt. Now, some of them took it the wrong way. And what they did was they kept old iron that kept breaking down. And I don't believe that's what Michael meant because that's a business decision. Like, look what you've done. You've almost doubled your fuel mileage.
Correct. So I'm trying to get rid of bad debt.
Right.
There's a difference between bad debt, good debt. Like I was saying the other night to you, using other people's money is a dangerous business plan unless you are a finance guy and understand it and can control your expenses and not in dispatch. But there's lots of different things you can do. But old iron is bad debt.
Especially the old iron that was built after 2007. If you're running 99s, I meet guys at these truck shows. The problem with 99s or 2000s or 97s or any of that old stuff, you're getting lousy fuel mileage. Like you just are. I don't care what. The best you're going to get is the best we did was 7.4. And that was the best we ever did.
But you're going to lose it unless you. So if I was out on the road, I would have a 99 W900 just done to the tits because I'd be happy. I'd be going down the road. But I would change the fan belt. I used to keep an alternator. I would do my own brake adjusts. Trying to run a company and have a 99, you're going to pay the service calls are insane.
It doesn't work. And the only way, Darryl, don't want to interrupt. The only way this works is you basically build a glider kit on your own. And what you do is you rebuild the truck, everything brand new from one end to the other. Time you finish, you're into $200,000. You may as well go buy a brand new International with a warranty.
And the maintenance plan they have now, so I bought my Ford a while back.
Right.
And I got the maintenance plan on. I don't even change for cabin air filter. It needs maintenance. Drive to the shop. It's gas and go. They're starting to bring that into the diesel world. And I, as an owner, I like that because the Loves are an international dealership. So if I need an oil change, I just call the dealership, tell them where I'm going. They arrange it. My driver drives in, gets the oil change. We don't even have to issue a T-check. It's all paid for. Drive out the door.
You're obviously covering brakes and tires.
Nope, brakes are included. Tires are not. Glass is not. 2 depth cleanings. Top sets are included. Light bulbs are not. So if I burn out a bulb, I got to replace it. Certain corrosion is covered. But I get one set of brakes in 520,000 miles.
Will a set of brakes last you that long with the work you do?
I think the brakes will last me about 225.
Okay.
So I'll get that brake change done. So, we're putting on about 110,000 miles a year. So by the time I get to hopefully needing a second brake set, if I have to pay for brakes, I will, but the first set's covered.
Now, are you all disc brakes on those?
No. I'm not liking the cost of disc brakes, and I have a couple of trailers that are disc brakes.
Really? You don't like disc brakes?
I don't, and I don't like the braking feel. So I have one truck that's disc, the rest are back to drum.
Right.
If I have a disc trailer and a disc truck, it's good. But if you have a drum truck and a disc trailer, It feels like you're not going to stop. I can definitely feel the difference, and so can some of my drivers.
Because we had now some of the trucks, not all, because we had some older equipment that had drums, some of the owner operators, but we had bought some reefers and inspect them out with disc brakes, and they're still loving them.
So I don't like it because you can't check. You really can't do the same with your slack adjuster test.
Right. Yeah.
So, and because of the disc brakes, you got guys that can't look at, the old 45-90 ones out, do your 6-pack, look and see if they're the same. You can do a quick visual. It's not perfect, but at least you're looking.
Yeah.
Now all the scales are coming out with that brake roller. You pull on and then you put your brakes on. So because they can't check the stroke on a disc brake.
Oh, no.
Now they found a way. Now you're having higher because you're still getting bad slack adjusters and stuff, right? So I think it's a good way, but I think it needs to improve more. I'm trying to think the brand I have. I got 2 Minac trailers.
Right.
And they're not Hendrickson, but I just had the safety one, and I had to wait 2 weeks to get a caliper. Oh, what the brand? They have no parts. They don't stock parts. And
is that because not a lot of people are running them?
I think it's because they don't have a big market share. And I'm trying to think. I'm sorry, I can't think of I can see the logo. I just can't pull it out. But I've now made sure that whenever I go anywhere, I'm trying to get Hendrickson's suspension, Hendrickson's spindles to blow my yards, right? So a little bit, it's like having a Holland tailgate. You don't want to have a Holland tailgate. You can't get parts for them. You know? So that was the one part of the part that I have on my trailers. But back to cutting costs, doing a little more work. Laid off a couple of staff. Didn't really want to do it, but I had to.
Do what you got to do. You know what? Because you have to get rid of 2 to save 20. That's how you got to look at it.
That's exactly it. But on the plus side was I picked all the people that I shouldn't have hired in the first place.
Yeah. You culled the herd. You know what? Sometimes, unfortunately, it takes tough times to be able to do that, to motivate you to the extent, because the worst thing you can do is keep people around that shouldn't be around.
That's right. So the guys I kept are the guys that walk into customers and don't have any complaints. The people I got rid of are the people that complained. The office staff I got rid of were the ones that were cutting corners all the time. So I see us getting through. I don't see how pretty it is. But my main objective is, can I make it through the other side?
You will. You know what? You'll definitely make it through because you're a lot more progressive than a lot of other people. One of the strategies that I thought of, because you know what, I went through tough times many, many years ago, a couple times. And when my back was up against the wall, I got to tell you, I was really, I was hurting. We had bled a lot of money. Some stuff had happened. There were some bad decisions, but there were some decisions that weren't mine that were bad decisions that I had to pay for by another party. And anyways, I was getting through it, but it was tough. And one of the alternatives I looked at to make it through was to merge overheads with another company. And I almost did that with another company. And then I found out, they did something dirty. And I thought, well, I'm definitely not doing, and I just never spoke to them again. And shortly after that, they went out of business. Now, they would have made it had we, number one, merged overheads, and they had not stuck a knife in my back to steal a real third-rate salesman that didn't even last there very long. But they thought that the salesman, this shows you how people get into trouble, and you offer them a lifeboat and they won't take it because it's not the color green they like.
It's not for me, and it's me. I'll let you pay. I'll let you get the nastiness. I have to admit, I have aligned myself with some really good companies. even in the tariffs, the guys that I'm hauling for haven't even come close to saying, I need you to do it for $50 cheaper. I've talked to one agent and she said, yeah, it's pretty lean. I'm only making $25 a load. And I said, well, that's not right. And we talked, like, she needs to make some money too, right? But she was refusing to try to get me to lower my price because she was paying me for the service. And I'm like, well, let's make this work for both of us. 100%. You still need to make your part, and when it gets good, you can pay it back. I'll pay it back now. You pay it back when it's good.
Well, Darryl, I always believe that it's not a deal unless both parties win. If one party loses, one party wins. It's not a deal. It's not a good deal. It's a bad deal because everybody's got to win. That's why they call it a deal.
That's right.
You get what you want. The other party gets what they want. You both go your own way, and everybody's happy because nobody feels like they got the short end of the stick.
Correct. The only thing I'd like to do right now is try to find a couple of good teams. When it's busy, I could get that extra load a month in, which would make up for the truck that I took down. But I'm not trying to get any team. I'm looking for some good operators. Like, unfortunately, I had a call today, and it was kind of funny. The guy wanted to come work for me because I'm 5 minutes away from home. But he didn't want to work for me unless I had short runs. And I said, well, I'm sorry, right at the moment I don't have that. I have the West Coast. I will have short runs when it picks up because I'm still dedicated to Cleveland. I will make that market work.
Right.
But I can't afford to put a truck on it right now. I got to wait till something
the
has.
Economy is, what? The trucking economy is not good. You can't pick. You have to pick what's good for you.
Lots of containers in Ohio. A lot of stuff comes in off ships. And a lot of stuff gets resold, and it is a hotbed of manufacturing, but there is a lot of imports in Ohio.
Well, yeah, because the rail, it's like Chicago, it's like Phoenix. A lot of the rail leaves the ports, goes on. They put the containers on the rail. They take it to places like Cleveland that are close. It's kind of like the gateway to the Midwest. And they break bulk it from there because from Cleveland, you can go anywhere. And that's what they do.
So he wanted to come in and do an application. And I said, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't think I'll waste your time or my time. I said, because I'm looking for drivers that, yes, will run Cleveland. But if I have to send you to Seattle, you got to go. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry. I don't want to waste your time, my time. And I told him, I said, I'm not going to lie to him. He's like, well, I run that area now and I'm not getting any freight.
Well, where are you getting it from, Darryl? If he can't get it,
that's what I said to him. I'm like, that's why I'm running the West Coast, because I have a market there. And I've had to change plans and go back. And like I told him, I said, if you're willing to run the West Coast now, by all means, come on. And when that market comes back, I'll put you on it. But that doesn't mean that you'll always run that market. And he's like, well, maybe I could do one trip a month. I'm like, yeah, no, no. I'm sorry. At the moment, I got your number. I'll call you back if something happens. Now, honestly, I will never call the driver.
No, because he doesn't want to work. He doesn't want to do the type of work you have, and the type of work he wants doesn't exist really right now, because that Cleveland area, Cleveland down to that whole Rust Belt from Cleveland down to Cincinnati, all through there. They need Canadian steel to keep making the stuff they do, and they're not making it, and that's what's hurting the American truckers.
Yep. So I'm hoping 30 days. That would be beautiful. We've always had tariffs. They're not so high. Hopefully they come. Hopefully Donald is done puffing his chest and he backs out in a backroom deal and everybody's happy again and we can get back to life. Or some of the ships start coming into Canada, and Canada takes off and doesn't have enough trucks, and we can get some revenue going that way.
Well, the only way that, you know what, the only way that's going to happen, I think, Darryl, is if Canada gets rid of the red tape that holds this country together. And I heard some talk. Now you can't, and I know for a fact you cannot believe anything they say on the news anymore, which is a shame. I was talking to a group of old timers down in Pennsylvania this weekend, and how we reminisced for the days when Huntley Brinkley and Harry Reasoner delivered. That was my dog just unplugged my computer. Get out of here, girl. Come on. And they actually delivered the news, not their opinion. I
Right.
really don't care about their opinions. I want to know what's going on in the world. And I want the actual truth of what is going on in the world, not their opinion on what's going on in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a gentleman you introduced me this morning to.
Right.
We're going to look at doing maybe some doubling up of expenses.
That's it, man. Doubling, so sharing overheads, basically.
Yeah. If someone needs an office, I've reduced enough. I have a bunch of office space available. If someone needs a dock, I've got a dock we can share. People can reach out. If I'm open to talking about anything, as long as it's win for you, win for me, and everybody's on the same board.
Yeah,
that's what matters.
You need that trust, and you can go right down. Like I thought of this many years ago, and as long as you can share so many, like the overheads, like if you can align yourself with somebody that has a similar business but doesn't run the same lanes. Let's say they run New York and Cleveland, but a local pickup, a local delivery on a partial load, doesn't matter whether it's going to Cleveland, Seattle, Portland, or Timbuktu. Doesn't matter. It's a local pickup and delivery.
Well, and the thing is, I got that D83 split program. That it's amazing. Like when you do come up, I'm going to show you. I do it on my own trucks. Like so, when I do a switch in North Dakota, I do the pickup to my city. I do the switch truck to North Dakota. I do the switch truck out to Seattle, and it breaks it all down to percentage so that it works on the overall. So the minimum on the split is $62. You can probably manipulate it and go lower if it was lower, but a delivery will never ever be less than $62.
Well, that's what it costs, a minimum of $62 to bump a dock. Minimum. Okay.
So on other sides, like a $2,500 load, 10 skids from Barrie to Metagenics, it splits it out to $352 to my city truck. So with having that information where it's not out of the blue, it's the same program FedEx uses, Yellow used it, Saya used it. That's what it was made for. And it's really hard to get into the company unless you're invited. I got lucky and got invited, and I have access now. So, and it's updated on a regular basis for fuel and all that kind of stuff. And if you have specials, you can change and adjust it. You can raise the minimum if you need to, put accessories in there. It's really made it fair when you're using another carrier for like a local pick or delivery. So, someone's got 10 skids to pick up, paying $2,500. Well, I'll pick it up. You pay me $352. It's on the dock, and everybody's happy. You deliver 10 skids for me, I'll pay you $352. Like that, and it could be more. That's just from my dock to Mississauga. Like if it's my dock to Beamsville, it'd be more. Brantford, more, yeah. And those are the tools that I'm really glad I found, because it saves the time of trying to build Excel sheets.
Oh my God, yeah. That is and that's not a job for the owner of a trucking company. That's really a job for a young computer programmer with a Rand McNally map and and a program saying how far it is from here to here. But they have to realize because sometimes even a program where it'll say it's 60 miles from point A to point B, but it's 60 miles as the crow flies. But there's a toll involved, and there's a ferry involved, and all sorts of stuff that they won't know unless they look at a map.
Absolutely. I deal with that with Victoria a lot. I won't take anything to Island because I'm not paying the ferry charge. I'm sorry, just for a couple.
How much is the ferry charge now?
$1,000.
Whoa! So it's almost doubled in 20 years. Wow.
Correct. But why would I waste my time on the ferry? I found a company, Argus. Like I said, I'm gonna pat my own back here. I think I'm pretty good in finding solutions and finding carriers to work with. I found Argus in Langley, BC. They have terminals all over BC. Great stand-up company. You can rely on them. They have a barge system. You get it to their dock by 7 o'clock at night. It'll be on a trailer by 11. It'll be on the barge by 2 a.m. They barge it over to Victoria. They have day cabs over there hooked to the trailers and go deliver it. The straight trucks, the driver walks on, drives it off, comes back, puts it on the barge, comes on the other side, and they do it all over again. Why would I bother? But now what happens is people don't want to pay the ferry. They don't realize the ferry. When you explain it to them and you introduce them to Argus, they want a fortune. Dude, it costs money to do this.
Well, yeah, number one, you have the $1,000 cost to get over there, and you have the time because you really lose, even to deliver a full load, you're losing a full day at least to go over from Vancouver over to Victoria, British Columbia, for those that are from the U.S. You're losing all that time.
And we're talking $150 for one skid to Victoria from Langley.
That's cheap.
I can't do it for that.
No.
But once again, having their own barge and doing all that stuff is their secret sauce, right?
Right. It's like Linden Transport going up to Alaska.
I deal with them a lot.
They're great. What a wonderful company.
Yeah. Alaska Marine Lines is Linden Transport. You got Linden and Fife. You got Alaska Marine Lines up in Seattle. You got Honolulu Freight Service, for Hawaii and stuff. I think that's what's going to help me is making good deals with good people, going down the right path, and making sure they get treated fairly.
Yeah. You're doing everything right. And you're thinking about merging overheads. And ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about is we're not talking about partnering up with anybody. We're talking about two independent companies operating independently that share expenses. So they're sharing a building, perhaps a terminal. They're sharing local pickup and delivery. They could share reception. They could even share a rate clerk, a billing clerk. They could share a safety manager. They could share a shop. They could share tow motor drivers. I could go right down the line to even if it was a large enough company, the person that cleaned the bathroom.
Absolutely. It's just trying to find the right person that has the right attitude, trust, put their portion into it. Conversation just started today. I think it'll take some time, but I'm also open to, I'll get out of my stuff and move in with them. And, they don't have to come to me. Whatever works the best. Now, I did get an offer from a gentleman today. He wants to build a shop, and he has to bring a bunch of supplies in. And he just made me a deal that if I want to use his property for my warehouse I was telling you about with containers, I can use it free of charge as long as I will give him the day cab and supply a flatbed trailer to bring his supplies up for his shop. I don't think that's a bad deal. He's looking at building the shop in 2 years, and I could save a crap load of money. So I'm thinking that's a good choice too.
Trucking's a funny business. You make money in trucking by saving money.
Correct.
That's the only way you make money is you got to watch your expenses. It's not, and especially now, it's not a business where you make a lot of money. It's a business where the leaner you can run within reason, because I know there's a lot of people out there right now that have cut maintenance. Well, that's the one area you don't cut maintenance, because when you cut maintenance, it costs you. I remember getting into a huge argument with a fellow that we were doing business with. We took over his family's business, and at the time we owned 51%. And there was I went outside, and I can actually smell a bad tire. I can walk in a yard, and there can be 50 trailers, and I will find you a bad tire. I just can sense them. Don't ask me why. I don't even know how I do it. Almost got my hands taken off with a fan on a truck tonight. So it's not that I'm a great mechanic or anything. But I remember looking at these tires, calling the tire guy, and Steve came out and said, "What are you doing? Why is the tire guy? There's nothing wrong with those tires." I go, "What do you mean there's nothing wrong? We can get one more trip out of them to the coast." I said, "No, no, 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 no. I'm not betting this round trip, 5,000 miles or 5,200 miles on these tires. There's no way, because if we get a blowout or one goes bad, it's hot out there. It's summertime." He'd never been on the road, although his old man was a hell of a trucker. He'd never really been on the road as a driver. He'd gone with his dad when he was a kid. I said, "There's no way we're replacing the tires." And I still believe in that sort of thing. You have to go visual sometimes and make the decision on should the truck go or not. But you have a safety protocol, and you have to follow it. You cannot deviate from that.
I bring my tire guy in, and I let him do it. I have a tire program with Goodyear now. I just went to Goodyear because now I'm part of a national account.
Right.
It's like one number.
Yep.
No matter where my trucks are, they get taken care of. Less stress for me. I'm with a company called Centrinic, and they get the same pricing, but they put a bunch of guys like me together to do it, because I paid $1,200 for a guy in Minnesota to go out in the middle of nowhere in Minnesota where we run, and he tried to say it was a tire, turned out to be a valve stem, and he had to go back to the shop to get a valve stem. And
No.
Yes. 5.5 freaking hours for a valve stem. And
Well,
$1,200.
I had a rule. I told our drivers years ago, and I enforced it. I said, I do not want to see tires kicked or hit with billy clubs. Now, we bought some trailers. The last ones we bought had the automatic inflation system, which I love. I think now everybody's had different experiences. Another company that we own part of, they had really bad experience with those, but I tried them anyways, and for our application, they were phenomenal.
So I have Halos.
Right.
I won't waste any more money on them. They're aftermarket add-on. The lines are constantly having problems. The bolts get loose. I've lost them. The company is a great company. If you got guys who are 100% on it, watching as the line flex because it's gotten cold and hot and it moves and it's rubbing on the tire. The ones that are from factory, no issues. I love them. Like the Wabash actually told you put a light on when you thought one was low, which I really like. So it almost has like a tire monitoring system.
Right.
The trailer. I have come to believe, like my Volvos had add-on APUs. None of them worked when I traded them, and they were way too expensive to fix.
Oh yeah, you know what? You don't want those aftermarket ones. You want them built and installed in the factory.
So that 2017 International I bought it at you. I sent it to auction in February.
Right.
The APU was still working.
Because that was a factory-built APU.
Yeah, 100%. I swear by them.
Yeah, they do work. Now, usually you can't take them off the trucks. If you were selling a truck and you want to take the APU off and put on another truck, they don't seem to work as well when you switch them.
I don't think you can switch the international, really, the international one. I think the aftermarket ones, and I've hauled lots for Carrier and stuff, you can switch them around, but it's, I don't know, and I'm probably people are going to yell and scream at me, but I think the engineers, and as much as I hate engineers that build trucks and cars, because the stuff they do and where they put screws.
Oh, I know. They've never driven a truck.
Right. But when an engineer puts a system together and it's sealed, you have a better chance of it lasting longer and not breaking down because it was designed in tandem. You're taking now someone made a great unit. I like the Carrier, which used to be, I think, it's not the tri-pack, but it's the Carrier model. It used to be another name, and Carrier bought them.
Right.
I made it at Guelph. I hauled a lot of parts for them. It's a good system, but you're cutting into stuff. You're drilling holes through, and you just always seem to have problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're heavy on maintenance. Like you save money on fuel, you save your motor. You do give your drivers comfort, but they seem to break down a lot.
Yeah, all the aftermarket stuff. Now, what are you doing in this market? Are you having good luck retaining drivers?
With the drivers I have left, I've had pretty decent luck. I just brought a team on recently. We're having a talk tomorrow. Not sure if they're going to work out or not, because team and LTL is pretty tough.
We found that too.
But they're not a real team either. Like they left Seattle, went out to Moses Lake and took 12 hours off.
So it's a super single, we used to call them.
Correct, but they want team pay. And I'm like, okay, well, for team pay, you got to be a team.
Yeah.
I'm loading you out Friday. I expect you here Sunday. And I got to load leave on Monday because I need it back there Wednesday, Thursday morning. You're going to load Friday, come back for Monday, off till Thursday, and start the cycle, right? You got a cycle, right? So I think everybody right now is pretty good because they've made calls. Drivers do talk, and they know the market's not good. And a couple of my guys have said, I don't know how you're doing it, but the checks are always in the bank, and we're still getting 12,000 miles a month. Maybe a few too many drops, like the last few trailers, because I'm back in dispatch.
Right.
So one of my techniques is I'm not going to charge you $700 for a skid to the roof. I'm going to try to steer away from your skid. No offense. I'm looking for that skid that's 40 by 48 by 20 inches high.
You can stack
I'm going to do it for $350 because I can get 10 of them in that spot with my load bars. So, my guys have noticed that good compliments. The freight's in a better line. It's nicer freight, but they're doing 24 to 28 drops one way.
Now, do you reimburse your drivers? No, they're paid per drop. Is there a bonus or anything you give them?
Per mile, per drop, and bonuses are designed for profit of the company at the moment. I'm trying to figure out a better system, but when we have, for example, we had $100,000 profit, I take 10% for the office staff, and I also take 10% for the drivers.
Whoa.
So, I'm taking 20 grand and I'm dividing it up between everybody. So it's advantageous for them to do more because they'll make it. We've talked. I pay 60 cents a mile right now.
Right.
$10 a drop, $10 across the border.
Right.
$5 for every axon, sending your paperwork and stuff. Like I needed to incentivize it because there's people that weren't doing stuff. So I have them paid for every single thing. I'd like to see my drivers up to 70 cents a mile.
You know what I did, and I had I had an epiphany one night. I was working the dock and helping actually I was leading the loading team, and we needed to unload a couple of trailers that came in because I needed the trailers. So we started to swing some freight that had come in from the U.S. so I could leave it on the dock and then load up that trailer to go out because I was running low. And lo and behold, here's a couple of trailers that had just tons of room, and they shouldn't have because they were in good areas. And I put an end to that. What I did was I started a thing, and I think it was you got $50 a pickup or $50 a drop up to $5 and over, you got $100. Productivity went through the roof. We all of a sudden we had drivers and owner operators calling from Lincoln, Nebraska. Listen, the guy only shipped 7 skids, and they're really, really low, and I got bars. I could take a lot more. It's Thursday. I won't be home until Saturday anyways. I'm glad to, I'll stay out till Sunday, If I get back Monday morning, it's cool. What have you got? Can I top out somewhere in Kansas City or Chicago? What do you got for me? And they
Right.
would keep calling, and it was pretty wonderful.
I would like to actually go back to salary and hourly. I want to get away from the piecework, but it's really hard for guys to understand. And hourly has to be a minimum 55 miles per hour average. I'm not paying you to stop at every truck stop. And that's the problem with hourly. I really want to move to hourly because that's how I developed my plan to begin with. And I want to pay a decent hourly charge, but it's stopping the people from abusing it.
That's the problem. I tried it about 30 years ago when we had trucks based out of Kansas City and Virginia, and because it was all partial loads, and it worked for the honest guys. We didn't have the technology yet because it was way too early. It hadn't been developed, and because of that, it was a total flop. You just couldn't. We just couldn't make it work.
Right. There's a lot of abuse. So I'm still working on it. I think I'll get there eventually because I feel I would do better. But here's another funny rule. You got to watch how you pay them because I want to pay them to sleep. So basically, when you leave to go to work, you get paid for every hour to get back, including sleeping in the truck. While the ministry says you can't do that. If I pay a driver while he's sleeping, he has to be on duty.
That doesn't work. Yeah.
Government. It just like so now how do you figure out to cover the hourly working to when he's sleeping, to when he's sitting at a dock, sitting at customs? It's not as easy as people think it is, but I think we need to move to that to make a decent salary for people.
There is the red tape that this country is mired in. That sort of BS. It's totally ridiculous. It just doesn't work.
So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to keep working on it. I was working on trying to figure out a little ways to cut a little corners in cost, not cut corners in productivity or maintenance. But where can I take a little bit more money out of? Could I outsource some of my stuff? Like I'm actually looking to outsource my safety department for right now. I don't think that's a bad idea.
I think it's a great idea. I think that that can work very nicely to cut costs. I think those are one of the areas you probably don't need a full-time safety, and there's probably 4 companies in the general area that could all share one really top-notch safety person.
Absolutely. So we're looking at that. The guys overseas with my business and I'm very picky on how I like stuff doing. We had some training issues, so that wasn't working out as well as I wanted, just because they don't understand geography.
Right. And you can't, it's great to have somebody overseas answer the phone, maybe take an order, but it doesn't, it's fine for some companies for billing if they have the right program and things like that. Listen, I'm watching the time click away, and we reach a point on this show, unfortunately, where it just kind of cuts off. So I don't want that to happen. Can you tell our guests how to get hold of you if anybody wants to talk to you about some of your ideas and maybe they can share something or ask something?
Absolutely. Give me a call at 705-214-9659 or reach out to me by email, Darryl, Darryl, at Durango, Darunco, specialized.com.
Thank you. And thank you for joining me. If anybody has any questions, anything I can help them with, please send me an email, chucksnow280@outlook.com. Put your phone number on it. I always call everybody back, and I'll help you. Anything I can do for you. I don't know what I can do in some of these times and some of these situations, but I'll certainly lend a hand. This is Chuck Snow for Rico Muhammad and the Rates and Lane podcast. You could have been anywhere tonight, but you chose to be with us. Don't forget to give us some likes. We really appreciate it. And thank you for joining us, Darryl. Thank you for joining us. Well, it's always a pleasure. As my friend Rico always says, keep it between the mustard and the mayonnaise. As I say, catch on the flip-flop, and we'll see you again next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a good night, everybody. Be safe. God bless.
God bless.